Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
How's it going?
Great.
Yeah. It's been a little bit of a surreal 12 hours or so.
Can I say why it's been a bit of a surreal 12 hours? So your movie, The Body Remembers When the World Broke Open, was announced as this year's recipient of the Rogers Best Canadian Film Award with a cash prize of $100,000, which is Canada's largest film prize.
Yep.
Yes.
I'm glad that was your reaction, not what? I don't remember that at all. Yeah. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You got to tell me about hearing that your film won this thing.
Well, where to begin? We poured our hearts and souls into making this film, as did our entire cast and crew. Like, we really built a family in making this film. And the main goal really from the beginning was just to make this film and honor Indigenous women and honor women as a whole, and create a film where women felt authentically represented on screen in this specific situation regarding intimate partner violence and the strength between women. And here we are the morning after winning this major award, and it feels incredible to know that Canadian audiences and audiences all over the world are recognizing the importance of this story, and that we achieved our goal, which was to make women feel as though they were authentically represented on screen.
Yeah, and the other incredible part of it, I think, is that we really wanted to make this film in our own way and sort of reinvented our own process to do it and didn't compromise on that at all. And it's just so incredible to see that, sticking to our vision in that way has really, I think paid off in the end result.
Mind you, what was the feeling when they read your name out?
My legs almost gave out.
Yeah, a little drop in blood sugar.
Like the walk to the stage is sort of a terrifying.
Yeah, and not only that, to have Margaret Atwood present the award, which is, she's such an incredible figure, but someone that my mom really, really admired, and I know my mom passed away recently, and that was pretty special, I think, too.
I want to talk about this film, and I want to talk about the where the whole encounter begins that I mentioned in the introduction. So Isla, who Elle-Máijá plays, she sees this woman, Rosie, standing on a street corner. She's soaking wet. She has bruises on her face and neck. And Isla, who's this complete stranger to Rosie, takes her by the hand, guides her back to her apartment. And I understand like a similar encounter in your own life inspired the story. Could you tell me that story?
Yeah. So I guess it's probably been 6 years or so. I was actually at the local grocery store earlier trying to pick out the right organic toothpaste. I'd been reading this book called There's Lead in Your Lipstick and was obsessed with buying organic beauty products. That was kind of my biggest concern that day. So I spent 20 minutes trying to pick out the right flavor of organic toothpaste. And then I started walking home. And of course, it being February in Vancouver, it started pouring rain, and it was very cold. And on my way home, I was keeping my face out of the rain, and I was looking at the sidewalk. And then all of a sudden, in my field of vision, were two bare brown feet. And I looked up, and it was a young woman with her back to me. It was kind of one of those moments that sort of really caught me off guard. What is this woman doing standing barefoot in the pouring rain at this busy intersection? And so I moved around her to see, what was going on, and she was very pregnant, and she was staring at something in the distance through the traffic and was very distraught. She didn't even really notice me there. I asked her how she was doing, and it took a couple of times for her to notice that I was there. And she managed to say, I just ran away from my boyfriend. And in that moment, I heard this man across the street shouting her name. And I didn't really think. I just took her with me and started walking in the opposite direction, and there was a car to go nearby, so we hopped in this car to go, which is, these little tiny smart cars.
That you can drive yourself.
Yeah. And so we started driving away, and I thought, all right, she needs to go to the hospital. She's been assaulted, and she's pregnant, and she didn't want to go. She didn't want to go to the police either, and didn't have anywhere else to go. So I took her home with me, and like Isla in the film, I'm very privileged in the sense that I've never experienced intimate partner violence. I didn't witness it at home. And so I, like many people, was naive to that, thinking that you just take a woman to a women's shelter and it all gets fixed. And that wasn't the case. It was very challenging, and I learned that it's not so black and white, and that we need to respect women's agency, and they have the right to choose in those situations. And I never saw that young woman again.
You never did?
No, and the experience deeply impacted me. It was like you're fortunate enough to have these collisions with strangers that affect the rest of your life. And so I carried the story with me for years, not really sure what to do with it. I walked past her building so many times hoping I would bump into her, and I didn't. And ultimately I decided I wanted to honor our experience and her story and other women like her through film, because that's basically my only skill. And reached out to Kathleen, who's been a friend for years, someone whose work I admire and respect, and
did you immediately see the potential for this to be a great story to tell?
Yeah, we were having breakfast together, and she told us, the story as it happened, and it was immediate. It felt, so complex, so layered, so urgent for the time we're living in Canada for Indigenous women, and I really admire Máija's work and her as a person and everything she does. So yes, it took about maybe a minute to say yes. Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about how the film is shot, because this film is really remarkable. Like, you feel like you're there standing next to these two women the entire film, and that's because the entire film seems to be in one continuous shot. Here's an example.
So where are you from then? Why? Just asking. Some people feel they gotta talk all the time, hey?
So Kathleen, why shoot it like that?
Well, right from the very start, Máijá had wanted to make the film in real time to sort of honor that temporality and all the layers of complexity that happen in the silences between words. So we came into it with that idea, and I think we were just feeling like if we want to do this in the best way possible, we need to fully commit and try and do it in a continuous take. And I think what it does for the audience is it really puts you in the room with them and doesn't allow you to take a breath in a lot of ways. You feel like you're constantly wondering when it's going to end or how they're going to get out of the situation, and you really sort of get stuck on the edge of your seat with them. So that was really important. Also, Máijá comes from a theater background, so that was a huge part of that decision, and maybe, yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, those quiet, awkward moments are such a part of our lives.
Yes.
That don't often get put in film, but they can be as powerful as anything we say to one another. And I think that's what really struck me about the film is those quiet, again, awkward moments were sort of left in. But I didn't mean to interrupt. So you come from a theater background, so this is where you were a bit more comfortable, kind of acting things out all at once.
Yeah, I started out in theater, and I started out as an actor before I became a filmmaker. And I love the process of being able to rehearse for weeks and really work through all of the text with the director and the writer, if you're lucky. And we found our lead actor, Violet Nelson, through an open casting call, and she'd never acted before.
Amazing.
Yeah.
She had never acted before.
No.
Because this is a challenge for an experienced actor, right? To do everything in kind of one shot, not get a bunch of takes on it.
Yeah. She's a force of nature. She's incredible. Yeah. She's kind of become our adopted niece or something.
Sister niece.
We've kind of ingratiated ourselves into her life.
Right.
But we found Violet through this open casting call, and for anyone that doesn't work in film, it's often shot out of chronological order, which is really hard for anybody, let alone someone who's never acted before. So the idea of doing a continuous take from the performance side was that we would give Violet and myself as well the opportunity to go through the narrative from beginning to end. And there's a certain kind of momentum that builds in that. And then also the chance of failure, of things going wrong, adds, heightens the stakes and adds a certain creative tension in a way.
Earlier, you were telling me about how this film was sort of inspired by something that actually did happen to you. You were coming out of a grocery store shopping for organic toothpaste, and you run into this woman, and which very much is the story of the film, only in this case you're not coming from a grocery store, you're coming from a doctor's appointment. That being said, did you feel like you were acting your own experience? How much of you is in the character that you played?
Well, Isla's a heightened version of me. She's at the time she's a little bit more privileged than me, but it certainly did feel like I was reenacting this thing that happened. But we fictionalized the story. We thought it was really important to speak to certain themes like Indigenous youth aging out of foster care. The young woman I met that day hadn't been through foster care. And so, again, the film is fictionalized. The character of Rosie is someone we created ourselves, but it's very much there still in that relationship between the two women. You mentioned that you wanted to speak to Indigenous youth aging out of foster care. Kathleen, I know in order to do that, I believe you consulted with Indigenous youth themselves who had aged out. Yeah, we really wanted to make sure we were creating an authentic portrayal of youth and, being in our 30s. We're not quite as hip as we once were. So we sort of pulled together this script workshop with, I think we had 6 Indigenous women who had been through the foster care system. And it was incredible. It was a really eye-opening experience, just to sort of a reminder of how smart kids are, I think, and how much they know and how things have changed. And What did you learn? Jazz's feedback was that we needed more cuss words, as she put it.
That was a good comment.
There wasn't enough cuss words, I understand.
I think we we're reminded of how, even though there's no violence in the film, it can be triggering. And so we sort of really were aware going into production how careful we had to be with the people we were working with, our crew and cast, and just being very aware of what we were doing and how to avoid sort of like doing no damage, I guess. Yeah. When Kathleen says that the process was something we made up along the way. It was completely experimental. One thing that guided us throughout was that we wanted to do no harm, and we wanted to create a sense of family and a sense of respect on set. We wanted to hire as many Indigenous crew members as possible, but there's a gap in the industry. There aren't enough of us working in the key departments, say sound, editing, lighting, all of those things. And so we wanted to be able to help build capacity. So we hired 11 Indigenous young people who all wanted to work in film in all of our key departments, and they worked in a collaborative way with the head of each department. And we gave priority to youth who have aged out of foster care. And that added sort of this gravity to the work. It grounded us in something real, and these youth brought something so incredible every day to set. And we ensured that our entire crew had to go through cultural competency training and Indigenous history training to understand that what we were doing was very much rooted in something real.
Let's play the Joni Mitchell song. Sound, do you have that there?
Choose her a name she will answer to. Call her green, and the winters cannot fade her. Call her green for the children who've made her.
If you're just tuning in, this is Q. I'm Tom Power. I'm joined today by Elle-Máijá Tailfeathers and Kathleen Hepburn. They both wrote and directed The Body Remembers When the World Broke Open, which was just announced last night as the winner of the $100,000 Rogers Best Canadian Film Award, which I'll say again as my two guests look in no way like they believe that it actually happened. They seem relatively shocked, but they should not be. It's a really beautiful film. I wanted to ask you about this. In addition to the money and to the award, Ava DuVernay, one of the greatest filmmakers and kind of thinkers culturally of our time, has backed your film, is just distributing it to Netflix in the United States. If you don't know Ava, she's the director of Selma and When They See Us and 13th. And for one, what did that vote of confidence mean? And two, now that it's going to go to a wider audience outside of Canada, like, do you think about what anyone could take away from this film, even if they're not in this country?
Well, having Ava champion the film has really changed everything for us. I mean, the film is now on Netflix in English-speaking territories outside of Canada. We're supported by CBC, so it'll be on CBC Gem later this year. But just knowing that this somewhat small film about two Indigenous women in East Vancouver is playing on Netflix in the United States, Australia, New Zealand, it's quite a surreal feeling because we're having people from the other side of the world reach out to us and say that this film touched them on a personal level. And Ava is... she is a force of nature. Yeah. We had a chance to go down to the Array campus and meet her, and I can't even really put into words to describe that feeling.
Yeah, she's created such a beautiful space down there. She's got sort of her own world and her own community, and she's supporting so many people that haven't had enough support for their work. And I should mention that, we premiered this film in February, which was almost a year ago in Berlin, and it was, up until we spoke to Ava, we heard a lot of no's. We had a lot of salespeople saying, we don't know what to do with this film. We love the film, but we're never going to be able to sell it. But with Ava, it's a whole other story. She knows what she's doing, and she knows how to get to an audience and to reach people in a really, really meaningful way.
And she understands what this story and the importance of telling it kind of everywhere is. I want to close this way. So the film is called "The Body Remembers When the World Broke Open." It's a line from the great Canadian poet Billy Ray Belcourt. Can you tell me about why you chose this poem to be the film's title?
Well, it's borrowed from an essay by Billy Ray Belcourt, which can be found in Arts Everywhere magazine online. Billy is kind of one of the leading Indigenous voices in the country. He creates such beautiful work, and that title really speaks to everything that the film is about. Isla and Rosie come from very different backgrounds, but they've inherited this legacy of colonialism, which is violent in so many ways and impacts them every day. But they're also beautiful, strong, resilient Indigenous women who find a way through the mess, find a way through the violence, and go beyond surviving. And the essay is about all of those things. It's about this legacy that we've inherited and that we carry. It's about the fact that colonialism isn't over. We face violence every day in this country, and much of it is systemic and structural violence. And many of our people are literally fighting to survive every day. And Billy puts it into such beautiful words. People need to go and read that essay. I can't sum it up properly.
And his new book.
Yes. And
we were talking to him about his new book not that long ago, and you know what? We'll put the essay up on the internet. Guys, thanks for coming by, and congratulations.
Thank you. Can I say one last
Say whatever you want.
Because we forgot to mention it last night, just how amazing the other films were that were nominated. Two other very powerful, very talented women directors, the films Firecracker and Antigone. They're just incredible films, and we were just so proud to be amongst them.
Yeah.
Both amazing films. Both films you can check out on our website. Both Firecracker and Antigone. Guys, congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.